Rain hammered the windshield like thousands of desperate fingers. The wiper struggled to keep up, streaking the glass into blurs of gray and white. Inside the black Mercedes, Adrian Cole sat motionless, his eyes fixed on the empty road ahead. He had been driving for hours, no destination, just escaping another boardroom, another hollow victory. The dashboard clock blinked 11:42 p.m. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant. "Congratulations on the merger, sir. Historic day for the company." He didn't reply. His jaw tightened. What did it matter? Another empire built on numbers, and yet his apartment was as silent as a tomb every night. Lightning cracked across the horizon. Then, through the storm, something moved. At first, he thought it was a trick of the rain, a shadow swaying at the roadside. But as his headlights sliced through the downpour, he saw her. A woman, drenched to the bone, clutching something against her chest. Her hair plastered across her face, her clothes torn, her bare feet sunk into mud. She stepped forward, trembling, raising one trembling hand. He slowed. Against reason. Against instinct. The CEO, who never stopped for anyone, eased the car to the shoulder and rolled the window down a crack. She rushed to the door and knocked hard, her voice breaking through the rain. "Please. Please, my child is sick. Help us." For a moment, Adrian just stared. Her eyes, wide, terrified, pleading, burned into him. He looked past her. There was no other car. No lights. Only darkness swallowing the road behind her. He unlocked the door. She yanked it open and leaned inside, still shielding the bundle in her arms. "He's burning up," she gasped. "Please, can you take us to a hospital?" Adrian's eyes dropped to the child. A small boy, maybe 5, unconscious, his lips pale. Steam rose from his soaked hair. "Get in," Adrian said quickly. She climbed into the back seat, cradling the child tightly. Water pooled on the leather seats. Adrian pulled the car back onto the road, tires slicing through the floodwater. "Nearest hospital?" he asked. "There's one near Glenridge," she stammered. "About 15 minutes. He nodded and pressed the accelerator. The road twisted through the forest, barely visible under the rain. "Name?" he asked quietly. "Lila," she whispered. "And my son, Noah." Adrian kept his eyes forward. "He'll be fine," he said. But the words didn't feel real. Lila's soft sobs filled the car. Her voice broke again. "He's all I have." Something in Adrian's chest tightened. He glanced at her through the mirror, her face pale, lips trembling, holding her child as if the world could steal him any second. Then, a flicker. Noah's body jerked. His small hand twitched, then fell still again. "Please." "He's not breathing," she screamed. Adrian swerved the car to the side, slammed the brakes, and turned. Lila was shaking him, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Do something." Adrian froze. Decades of board meetings and deals had never prepared him for this, the look of a mother losing her child in his back seat. He tore off his seatbelt and reached back, his voice rough. I know CPR." He climbed halfway over the console, placed his hands over the boy's tiny chest, and began compressions. Lila's cries blurred with the thunder outside. 1, 2, 3, breathe. The boy's chest rose weakly, then fell again. Nothing. "Come on," Adrian growled, pumping harder. "Don't you dare." Then a faint cough. A thin gasp. The boy's chest lifted again, trembling. Lila screamed with relief, clutching him close. "Oh, God. Thank you. Thank you." Adrian sat back, shaking. His suit was soaked, his heart pounding. For the first time in years, he felt something break through the wall inside him. Fear, raw and human. They drove in silence after that. Only the boy's faint breathing filled the car. When the hospital lights finally appeared through the mist, Lila's had dropped against the window. She was whispering something. A prayer, maybe. Adrian stopped at the entrance, jumped out, and waved the emergency staff over. "Sick child," he shouted. "He's burning up." Doctors rushed out, lifting Noah onto a stretcher. Lila tried to follow, but a nurse held her back to take her details. Adrian stayed near the doorway, watching the boy disappear into the corridor of light. His chest still hurt from the adrenaline. "You saved him," Lila said softly behind him. Her voice trembled, gratitude and exhaustion mingled. He turned to her, rain dripping from his hair. "We got him here. That's what matters." She smiled faintly, though tears streaked her cheeks. No one stopped. Cars just passed. "You did." He didn't answer. He wasn't sure why he had. Hours passed. The boy was treated for pneumonia and dehydration. Lila sat in the waiting area, shivering beneath a hospital blanket. Adrian stood by the vending machine, staring at his reflection in the glass. His tie was gone, his shirt clung to his chest, his eyes hollow. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was supposed to be celebrating a merger worth billions. But now none of it felt real. "Mr. Cole," a nurse said, walking over. "The child is stable. He'll recover." Adrian turned, relief washing through him. Lila broke down again, covering her face. "Thank you," she whispered to the nurse. Then she looked at Adrian. "I don't even know how to repay you." He shook his head. "You don't have to." The nurse smiled at them both, then hesitated. "We'll need to keep him overnight. Do you have any family nearby?" Lila's smile faltered. "No. We've been moving. Just trying to start over." Adrian watched her, curiosity flickering in his gaze. There was something behind her words. Something she wasn't saying. Outside, the rain had stopped. The world was silent again. "Where are you staying?" Adrian asked quietly. She lowered her eyes. "Nowhere, really. We were sleeping in the car before it broke down." Adrian's stomach sank. A woman and her child, on a night like this, in the middle of nowhere. He looked toward the hospital hallway, where the boy was resting. Then back to her. "Come with me," he said. Lila froze. "What?" "Just until morning," he said firmly. "You can't stay out there." She hesitated. Her eyes searched his face, this stranger who had appeared out of the storm. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay." Adrian walked ahead, leading her to the car once more. The world smelled of wet asphalt and quiet promise. Neither of them spoke as they drove into the sleeping city. But as they passed a dim streetlight, Lila looked at him. Really looked, and her eyes softened with something like recognition. She whispered almost to herself, "You don't remember me, do you?" Adrian frowned. "What?" Lila turned her gaze back to the window, her reflection faint in the glass. "I didn't think you would." The rain began again, soft, distant, and unending. Adrian's grip on the steering wheel tightened. The sound of her words hung in the air, quiet but sharp, slicing through the hum of the tires. He turned to glance at her, confusion flickering across his face. "What do you mean, I don't remember you?" Lila didn't answer right away. She kept her eyes on the rain-soaked glass, where streetlights smeared into golden streaks. "It was a long time ago," she murmured. "Back when you still smiled." He blinked. That sentence hit him in a place he didn't know still existed. "I don't," he started, but stopped himself. There were too many things in his life he'd chosen to forget. Faces blurred by ambition, voices buried under the noise of success. Lila turned toward him then. Her face was pale, illuminated by the dashboard lights. "You came to my university once. You gave a speech about success, about never giving up. You told us that pain makes people stronger." She gave a weak, ironic laugh. "You were different then." He frowned. "That was over 10 years ago. You were one of the students." "I was one of the ones who believed you," she said softly. The car went silent again. Adrian didn't know what to say. The rain had slowed to a whisper, the road ahead empty and glistening like a ribbon of glass. "I never imagined," she continued, her voice barely audible, "that the same man who told us to chase our dreams would be the one to stop for me tonight." Adrian's jaw clenched. "Life changes people. Or maybe it just strips them," she said quietly. He said nothing after that. But her words stuck. He felt them echo inside him. In that cold, hollow space he never let anyone near. They drove for another 10 minutes until his car pulled into the underground garage of a tall, dark building. The lights flickered as the metal door closed behind them, sealing the night out. "This is your place?" Lila asked softly. He nodded. "Top floor." She hesitated. "I don't want to intrude." "You're not," he said. "You need rest. So does your son." He led her to the elevator. The metallic doors closed, and the faint hum of motion filled the silence. When they stepped into the penthouse, Lila stopped in the doorway. It was vast, glass walls overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, a grand piano untouched in the corner. Everything was polished, perfect, and empty. "No one lives here?" she asked. "I do," he said simply, setting his car keys on the counter. "But it feels," she trailed off, searching for the word. "Lonely," he offered, half smiling without humor. She didn't deny it. He brought out a towel, handed it to her. "You can dry off. I'll get you something to wear." As she disappeared into the guest room, Adrian stood by the window, looking down at the city. Cars moved like sparks far below. He should have felt relief that the boy was safe, but instead, there was a strange heaviness in his chest. When Lila returned, wearing one of his old shirts that hung loosely around her, she looked small, fragile, yet dignified. "Thank you," she said, drying her hair. "You're welcome," he replied quietly. "I'll have someone bring food." "No," she interrupted. "Please, you don't have to. You've already done too much." Adrian turned toward her. "It's nothing." She smiled faintly. "It's not nothing. Not to me." For a moment, their eyes met, his tired and searching, hers warm and worn by sorrow. "You said you were moving," Adrian said, changing the subject. "Why?" Her hands tightened around the towel. "We were running," she said after a pause. "From what?" "Someone who doesn't know how to let go." Her eyes lowered. "Noah's father." Adrian froze. "He hurt you?" She didn't answer. The silence was enough. A spark of anger flashed in him, quiet but fierce. "Does he know where you are?" She shook her head. "No. I changed my number. I've been careful." She smiled sadly. Until the car broke down. He exhaled, pacing slightly. "You should stay here tonight. Both of you. Just until I can arrange something safer." "Adrian," she said softly, using his name for the first time. "You don't have to get involved." But he didn't listen. "I can call security to keep watch at the hospital. And tomorrow." "Adrian." Her voice cut through his sentence. She stepped closer, looking up at him. "Why are you helping me?" He hesitated. The question struck deeper than she knew. "Because I could have kept driving," he said finally. "And I didn't." Her expression softened. She nodded slowly. "Then maybe," she whispered, "you're not as lost as you think." He didn't know how to respond. Instead, he turned toward the window again, his reflection faint beside hers. Outside, thunder rolled again, distant now, fading. "Get some rest," he murmured. "You'll need it tomorrow." Lila watched him for a long moment before quietly slipping back into the guest room. Adrian stayed awake, staring at the rain tracing lines down the glass. His chest felt tight with something unfamiliar, not guilt, not sorrow. Something deeper. It was nearly 3 a.m. when his phone buzzed on the counter. He frowned, picked it up. Unknown number. He answered. A rough, male voice came through, low and steady. "Tell me," the voice said, "is she with you?" Adrian froze. "Who is this?" The voice chuckled darkly. "You picked her up on the road, didn't you? The woman and her kid. I've been looking for them." Adrian's pulse quickened. He glanced toward the guest room door. Closed, silent. "Who are you?" he repeated, his voice colder now. "You'll find out soon," the man said. "But let me give you some advice, Mr. Cole." A pause. "Don't play hero. She's not who you think she is." The line went dead. Adrian stood frozen in the dim light, the sound of rain returning outside. He looked toward the guest room again. Her words echoed in his mind. "We were running." But from who, exactly? And why did that voice sound like it knew his name? He stared at the phone in his hand, his reflection distorted in the glass. The city outside shimmered with lightning, and somewhere in the storm, Something darker was beginning to close in. Adrian didn't sleep. He couldn't. The stranger's voice replayed in his mind like a whisper that refused to fade. She's not who you think she is. He stood by the window as dawn crawled into the city, painting the skyline in pale gray. The storm had quieted, but the unease inside him hadn't. Somewhere down there, the world was waking up, traffic lights flickering, people hurrying to their routines. For them, the night had passed. For him, it had only begun. At 6:12 a.m., he poured himself a coffee and sat at the counter, staring at the phone on the table. The screen was blank. No missed calls, no messages. Part of him wanted to call his head of security, trace the number. But another part, the quieter, older part, hesitated. What if the man was right? What if there was something about Lila she hadn't told him? The sound of footsteps broke his thoughts. Lila appeared in the doorway, wearing the same shirt from last night. Her hair was still damp, eyes heavy from exhaustion. Yet she smiled faintly when she saw him. "Morning," she said softly. He nodded. "How's Noah?" "The nurse texted me. His fever's down. They said I can bring him home later today."
"Good."
Adrian looked down at his coffee. "You must be relieved." "I am." She walked closer, watching him carefully. "But you look like you haven't slept." He forced a smile. "Couldn't." "Still thinking about last night?" she asked. He hesitated. "Among other things." Her gaze softened. "You've done enough, Adrian. I'll find somewhere else after I pick Noah up. You don't have to worry." But he wasn't listening, not fully. He was studying her face, her calmness, the way she avoided certain questions. There was something underneath, something she was trying to keep buried. Before he could say anything, his phone buzzed again. Both of them froze. He glanced at the screen, unknown number. Slowly, he answered, locking eyes with her. "Mr. Cole," the same voice rasped through the line. "I warned you." Lila's face drained of color. She stepped back, shaking her head. "Who are you?" Adrian demanded, his tone sharp. "I'm the man you don't want to cross," the voice said. "Now listen carefully. That woman, she took something from me. Something that belongs to me." Adrian's stomach turned cold. "What are you talking about?" A low chuckle. "She didn't tell you, did she?" "Of course not. She's good at pretending. Always has been." Lila lunged forward suddenly, snatching the phone from Adrian's hand. "Stay away from us," she screamed. "If you come near my son again, I swear." The man's laughter echoed through the speaker, smooth and venomous. "You think you can hide behind him, Lila? You think a billionaire makes you safe?" The line went dead again. She dropped the phone, trembling. Her eyes brimmed with panic. Adrian caught her shoulders gently. "Lila, talk to me."
"Who is he?"
Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You shouldn't have stopped for me. You don't understand what you've stepped into." "Then make me understand." His voice rose, echoing through the vast, empty penthouse. "Who is he?" She covered her face, shaking. "His name is Marcus Hale. He's Noah's father. He used to work for a private defense firm. Dangerous people, Adrian. He did things, terrible things."
"I found out what he was involved in."
"When I tried to leave, he swore he'd never let me take Noah." Adrian exhaled sharply, pacing. The name sounded familiar. "Marcus Hale," he muttered. "That company, they used to supply security equipment to one of my subsidiaries." Lila looked up at him, desperate. "Then you know what they're capable of." He nodded slowly. "Enough to know he's not bluffing." "I thought I was safe when I changed our names," she said, voice cracking. "When I left the state. But he found me again 2 weeks ago. That's why I was on that road. I was trying to disappear." Adrian's mind raced. This wasn't some domestic dispute. This was a man with resources, connections, a predator who had just found his trail. He looked at her. "You can't go back to that hospital. If he's tracking you, that's the first place he'll check." Her breath caught. "But Noah." "I'll have him brought here safely," Adrian said firmly. "I'll make the calls. But you're not leaving this building until I know it's secure." Lila shook her head. "You don't have to get involved in this."
"Please."
"He'll come after you." Adrian's eyes hardened. "He already has." There was silence. The kind that felt heavy, like the air before lightning. Finally, she whispered, "Why are you doing this?"
You don't even know me.
He looked at her, truly looked, and saw in her eyes the same hollow fear he used to see in his own reflection. The fear of losing everything, of being utterly alone. "Because I remember what it's like," he said quietly, "to have no one show up when you need them most." Her lips trembled. "Adrian." He turned away before she could finish, walking to the corner of the room where a hidden panel opened to reveal a security console. The monitors flickered to life, showing every camera feed in the building. "You'll stay here," he said. "I'll handle the rest." She hesitated, then nodded. While he called his head of security, Lila sat on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, eyes distant. The city lights spilled over her face, soft, tired, and filled with something like guilt. When Adrian finished the call, he walked over. "They'll bring your son here in 2 hours," he said. "I've already arranged protection at the hospital." "Thank you," she whispered, but something in her tone was off. Too quiet. He noticed it, but said nothing. 2 hours later, Noah arrived, sleepy, pale but smiling faintly. The sight softened something inside Adrian. For the first time in years, his home didn't feel so empty. As night approached again, the rain returned, tapping softly against the glass. Adrian stood on the balcony, staring at the city. Inside, Lila was putting Noah to bed in the guest room. When she came out, she lingered near him, hesitant. "He asked if you were his friend," she said. Adrian smiled faintly. "And what did you say?" "I said yes." Their eyes met, brief, quiet, filled with something unspoken. But just as she turned to go, the building's intercom buzzed sharply. Adrian frowned. "Who's here at this hour?" He walked to the screen beside the door and froze. A man stood in the lobby, soaked from the rain, face half hidden beneath a hood. The security camera zoomed slightly, and even through the distortion, Adrian could see the faint smile on the man's lips. Then, as if he knew exactly where the camera was, the stranger looked up, straight at Adrian, and mouthed the words, "Found you." Adrian's pulse slammed against his ribs. For a moment, the only sound was the rain tapping against the glass, steady and cold. Then he snapped back to life, hitting the intercom controls. "Lock every entrance," he ordered into the mic. His voice was sharp, low, dangerous. "No one gets in without my say." The building's AI security system chirped. Lockdown initiated. Lila appeared behind him, clutching her shirt. "What's wrong?" He turned, face pale but controlled. "He's here." Her breath caught. No, that's not possible." Adrian gestured toward the screen. The man was still there, tall, broad-shouldered, water dripping from his coat. His head tilted slightly, as if he could hear them. Then, slowly, he lifted his hand and pressed something against the glass of the lobby door. A child's drawing. A crayon sketch, crude, colorful, of a stick figure family. A mother, a father, and a little boy holding both their hands. Lila's knees buckled. She grabbed the back of a chair, trembling. "He used to make Noah draw those," she whispered, voice shaking. "He said it was proof that we were still a family." Adrian's eyes hardened. "He's taunting you." Her voice broke. "He's letting us know he's close." Adrian leaned toward the mic again. "Security Team 1 report," he demanded. Static. Then, "Sir, the perimeter's secure. Wait. What the hell?" The line cut. Adrian froze. The monitors flickered, one by one. Camera feeds turned to static. The power lights on the console dimmed, leaving the penthouse in a pulsing half-darkness. "Backup generator engaged," the system announced in a mechanical whisper. Lila stepped closer. "What's happening?" "He's inside the system," Adrian muttered. "He's breaching the network. He must have known our security layout." She shook her head. "He worked with encrypted defense systems. He could do this blindfolded." Adrian's voice dropped, steady but strained. "Then we don't wait for him to come up here. We move first." He reached under the kitchen island and pulled open a concealed compartment. Lila stared as he withdrew a matte black handgun and a small tablet linked to the building's internal grid. Her eyes widened. You have a gun? I have enemies, he said flatly. But tonight, they picked the wrong door. Before she could respond, the elevator indicator chimed.
Ding.
Both of them turned toward the closed metal doors. The red number above it glowed. 32, 33, 34.
He was coming up.
Adrian moved quickly, hitting the override panel beside the elevator. Come on, he hissed, grabbing Lila's arm. He pulled her down a narrow hallway leading to the panic suite, a fortified room hidden behind a sliding wall of glass. The elevator stopped. A beat of silence. Then ding. The doors opened somewhere beyond the corner. Lila froze. She could hear footsteps.
Slow. Heavy. Wet.
Adrian pulled her inside the panic suite, locking the steel door behind them. The room was soundproof, walls lined with reinforced panels, a small screen showing internal feeds. The main camera flickered back on just long enough to catch a glimpse of him, Marcus Hale. He stepped into the living area, his hood pulled back now. His face was hard, angular, his eyes calm and deliberate. He looked around the penthouse, as though he already owned it. Then he spoke, voice echoing faintly through the security audio. Adrian Cole, he said smoothly. You've got something of mine. I'm here to collect. Adrian's hand hovered near the gun, jaw tight. Beside him, Lila was trembling, whispering, Please don't do anything stupid. He won't stop if you fight him. Adrian's eyes didn't leave the screen. He already crossed that line when he came into my home. Marcus began walking around the apartment slowly, his boots leaving wet prints on the marble. He stopped at the guest room door. Adrian's stomach twisted. Noah was still sleeping inside. Lila's hand flew to her mouth. Oh God. Stay quiet, Adrian said sharply, voice low. Marcus touched the door handle, testing it. Then he smiled faintly. She always did find new protectors, he said, glancing up toward one of the cameras. You think you can keep her from me, Cole? You think money makes you untouchable? He kicked the door open. Lila gasped, but the bed was empty. Adrian exhaled. He's not in there, he whispered. Where? Security team got him out earlier, Adrian said. They took him to the secondary location before the lockdown hit. Marcus's smile faded slightly on screen. He looked around again, irritation flickering in his eyes. Clever, he muttered. Then, slowly, he turned toward the camera, and this time his voice hardened. You don't understand, Adrian. That boy isn't just hers. Lila's head snapped up. He's lying. Marcus leaned closer to the lens, his eyes burning cold. She didn't tell you, did she? Don't, Lila whispered. Marcus smiled faintly. That boy, he's not just mine. He's yours. The words crashed into the room like thunder. Adrian froze. His hand slackened on the gun. What? Lila's face went white. That's not true. Think, Cole, Marcus sneered. 12 years ago. A university charity event. A young woman with dreams in her eyes and nothing to lose. You gave her everything she needed to believe in you, and then you walked away. Adrian stared at Lila, at her trembling lips, her tearful eyes, the way she couldn't speak. Lila, he said slowly, voice shaking now. Is it true? She shook her head violently, tears spilling. I never meant for you to know this way. Answer me. Outside, Marcus's laughter echoed through the penthouse speakers. You see, Cole? You save a woman on a rainy night, and fate circles back to show you who she really is. Adrian's breath came shallow. He backed away from the monitor, his mind spinning. Lila reached out, desperate. Adrian, please. He's twisting everything. Then tell me, he roared. Tell me the truth before I open that door and end this right now. Her sobs broke the silence. Yes, she whispered. Yes, he's yours. The words shattered the room. For a moment, Adrian couldn't move. He just stood there, hearing the echo of her confession in the hum of the panic room. Outside, Marcus was still smiling. Now you understand why he matters, he said. He's the leverage that binds us all. Adrian turned toward the door, fury darkening his eyes. But then, the screen flickered again. Marcus was no longer in the living room. The feed shifted, static rolling, until a new image appeared. Marcus was standing at the panic suite entrance, and in his hand, he held a small black device, blinking red, an explosive trigger. He looked straight into the camera and whispered, almost kindly, "Open up, Adrian. Let's finish this as a family." For a heartbeat, time itself seemed to hold its breath. Adrian's mind went cold, every instinct screaming at once. He lunged toward Lila, grabbing her arm and pulling her back. "Get down," he shouted. The panic suite vibrated under a deep, mechanical hum, the warning sound of the door being manually overridden. Sparks spat from the steel frame. Marcus was forcing it open. Lila clutched Adrian's arm. "He'll kill us." "Not if I stop him first." Adrian turned to the control panel, fingers flying over the touchscreen. His security grid flickered, rerouting commands. Marcus was strong, but not invincible. The building still obeyed its owner. He keyed in a command: manual lockdown, sublevel containment. A siren blared. The outer corridor sealed off behind Marcus, steel shutters slamming down one after another. He looked up, realizing what Adrian was doing, and his smile faltered. "You're trapping yourself in here with me, Cole," he shouted through the thick door. "You think that'll change how this ends?" Adrian's voice came low, cold, steady. "I'm not trapping myself, Marcus. I'm isolating you." He pressed one final command: activate emergency containment seal. The panic suite's reinforced shutters dropped instantly, dividing the hallway between Marcus and the suite. There was a single flash through the screen, a blinding bloom of orange, then the world split open with sound. The explosion tore through the hallway. The cameras went white with static, then black. The floor shuddered. Glass cracked. A wall of dust and smoke swallowed everything beyond the door. Inside the panic suite, silence fell. Only their ragged breaths remained. Lila clung to him, shaking uncontrollably. "Is he?" Adrian stared at the now lifeless monitor, eyes narrowed, voice barely a whisper. "He's gone." For a long moment, neither spoke. Rain pattered faintly against the glass again, soft and distant, as if the storm itself had exhaled. Lila sank to the floor, tears streaking her face. "I never wanted any of this, Adrian. I just wanted Noah to be safe." He knelt beside her. His voice, when it came, was rough but gentle. "He will be. Both of you will." She looked up at him, her eyes full of guilt and something deeper. "You should hate me." Adrian shook his head slowly. "Maybe I should, but right now, I'm just glad I stopped that car." Her tears broke into a trembling laugh, small and real. She leaned forward, and for the first time since that stormy night, they held each other. Two broken souls who had collided in the rain and somehow found light in the wreckage. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, security teams rushing in. Adrian stood, helping her up. The penthouse was scarred, smoke curling through the shattered air, but it still stood. Hours later, after the chaos had quieted and the boy was safe in his mother's arms, Adrian walked alone to the balcony. Dawn stretched across the skyline again, golden this time, cutting through the clouds. Lila stepped beside him, wrapped in a blanket, watching the light spread over the city. He turned slightly, his voice low. "What will you do now?" "Start over," she said. "This time for real. No more running." She hesitated. "If you'll let us." Adrian looked at her, at the warmth returning to her eyes, at the quiet rise of hope where only fear had been. "You don't need my permission," he said softly. "But I'd like to help." For a while, they stood together in silence, the wind brushing past them, the world below glittering awake. Then Noah's small voice came from behind them. "Mommy? Mr. Cole?" They turned. The boy stood at the doorway, holding his mother's hand-drawn picture, the same one Marcus had used to haunt them. But now, Noah had drawn something new on it, a fourth figure beside the others.
A man.
Adrian froze. "Who's that?" Noah smiled sleepily. "That's you." Lila's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were soft, trembling with peace. She knelt and hugged her son tightly. Adrian's heart ached in a way it hadn't for years. The city below glowed brighter, alive and warm, washing away the last of the storm. For the first time in a long, lonely life, Adrian Cole felt something he hadn't even known he'd lost, the quiet, steady pull of belonging. And as the sun climbed over the skyline, lighting the scars of the night, one truth settled between them, simple, fragile, but real. Sometimes the people who crash into your life out of the rain are the ones who finally bring you home.